Grand Rising. So I thought I'll do a little update on what's going on, and because I kind of made that promise to myself that I would share more publicly of the journey and stuff, and I just completely didn't follow up on that. I did another YouTube video on that, and I was planning on doing more POV style videos and then talk about the journey and stuff, but it's time wise it's a challenge and it's not a priority. So I just do these like randomly, like right now. I felt it's a good time to do that, and I had the time. So the feelings that are coming up this morning and the thoughts are on the project that I'm building, the business that I'm building, the new coaching business that I'm building, the new guiding business that I'm building, whatever you want to call it, right? But in the end, it's what I want to do and what I'm doing. And as anybody that's been building something new knows, it's not easy in the beginning, right? Like you have to get so many things right, like until you find the right, avatar, let's say, that you can really work with, that motivates you and that works well for the client. It does take some time, right? It takes some time to align all of these different factors, right? Of lead generation, of, attracting the right clients, of, getting them into the program, enrollment, fulfillment, like all these different steps. They take a lot of refinement, they take a lot of work. And sometimes you're lucky in the beginning, right? And stuff just works. But then on the other hand, you get frustrated because stuff just doesn't add up, right? Like the things that you thought would work, they don't work. The thoughts that, the things that you thought wouldn't work, they work, right? Sometimes. And so it's an interesting phase because you constantly have to motivate yourself. You constantly have to stick to your truth. You constantly have to and get to again believe in what your vision is and what your mission is, right? Because, for example, with the work that I'm doing, right, like I'm doing this niche where it's very much always the same. People work with humans on their fitness, and they work on the mental and on the frameworks, on the programs that run them, and on the reframing and stuff like that. And then that's what they call addiction coaching or wellness coaching or executive coaching, right? But that's just a part of what I'm doing, right? Like my angle is basically my journey, right? Everything that I've learned throughout the years has been added into this. And so, I grew up with homeopathy. Like I've had homeopathy around like since I'm a kid. And, my father is very, very deep on that topic. And so that's part of my program, right? Like aligning all these different remedies with the specific requirements of each individual, right? Because it's not always like one remedy works with everyone. Sometimes it is, with simple stuff like a bee sting, let's say, right? But like an addiction, it's much more complex, right? And I'm not saying I'm really good at this, because I'm not, right? But I have a professional in the background that helps me with the really in-depth stuff on that angle, for example, right? Another point is astrology, for example. Astrology helped me immensely on my journey, right? It really helped me align with, who I truly am and what I truly, look for, and what my soul is yearning for, and all these different aspects of it, right? So it helps with alignment, it helps with the status quo, it helps you with, finding out which direction you want to take and which direction you're going. And so astrology is a big factor in my addiction program, right? And my one-on-one 90-day program. And just to mention two of those, right? You see that it is completely different from anything else out there, right? Third big pillar of my work is that, I have a team member in the background that does energy work with every client, right? Which is absolutely crucial. It was necessary to be done on me and with me back when I was healing, back when I was getting sober, back when I was detoxing, right? Like you open up all these different aspects of yourself, and they just stay that way if you don't know how to integrate them. And you don't know how to integrate them because you're just focusing on getting clean, right? And so that needs to be done. And that needs to be done by a professional. I'm not doing that myself because I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at, right? So I get these people in that help me on my journey and that I, tested myself, and I know they're legit and I know they're the best out there because I've tested many different ones. I've worked with many different homeopaths, worked with many different astrologers, worked with so many different fields. I've done everything basically that's out there. If it's like in human design, like all these different things, and I just pick the ones where I know, okay, this is really necessary and this is the only thing that works. And it works, holistically with everything else that I'm doing, right? And so the point that I'm making here is, right, I just mentioned 3, and you probably never seen this with any other addiction program, right? Because it's usually always clinic-based, right? And it's very, very Western medicine-like, if that makes sense. And so I've tried all of that. I've tried all these doctors and stuff like that, and it didn't really work, right? So I chose the stuff that worked for me because I tried for over many years, and I, basically found out what worked for me by trial and error, right? And by paying a lot of money to people that, weren't helping me, and by wasting a lot of time, by going many steps backwards and a couple steps forward and again backwards, right? And so on and so forth. But what I'm saying is, this is basically my journey packed into a program where I know it's working and where I know it will help other people too, right? And so this is kind of the thing that I have to remind myself, because, when stuff doesn't work, we tend to look at what works with other people and what works with other programs, and then we try to, find the fault within us and try to see, okay, why does that work with him and with their program? Why doesn't it work that well with my program yet? And then, our subconscious and our ego probably creeps in and it's like, hey man, why don't you think about maybe testing that, what he's doing there, right? And why don't you do it more than you're doing right now? And why don't you focus more on fitness? And why don't you focus more on, the regular stuff that everyone understands out there and that gets the recognition right away, right? But then you have to listen to your heart. You have to listen to your soul, and you have to, acknowledge that you're not them. And you have to acknowledge that your journey was different and that you are different and that your program is different, right? And you have to trust in your ability to push that through, right? And so that's basically what I'm saying here is, when you are in a situation like this, just trust that you are on the right path, even though it's rocky in the beginning, even though there are ups and downs and you're going backwards a bit, and especially if you're doing something authentic and something that is, your own creation, right? Like, it takes time to bring that message across, right? Like, it takes time for people to understand what you're really about and that you're legit and that you can be trusted, right? Because it's a big investment for people, right? Like, it's multiple 4 figures. And so it's a lot of money for people, and also commitment wise, it's a big one, right? Like, it's 90 days every week, they have to show up, and I have to show up too, right? So I understand, right? And that's kind of the point of this video, is just to make sure that I put it out there, because this is in essence a documentation of my work for myself, and if it brings value to you and more understanding of what I do, that's perfect, right? And that's a win-win for both of us. So yeah, I hope that made sense. If there are any questions, just hit me up and we'll talk.